Wonderful. Still can talk about Neverwinter Nights, still have more things to say that somewhat fit the initial topic. The one still going strong for, I believe, 3 videos now. Also, it is getting awfully hot here, and little to no respite in sight. Just felt like mentioning that. But circling back to the contrast between the first and the second game through a comparison of sorts. In the first game, it was your character's choice to attend the academy, and even the subsequent tasks you are needed, and it is shown the characters display that yes, there is one character that is antagonistic towards you, but it is for a rather good story related reason. And you also have pretty much full reign on how to approach the quests, and most importantly of all, you are in control of that story. On the other hand, in the second game, it is not your choice to leave the village. That one is made on your behalf. You are unable to pick your own companion because he too is told that yours is not his journey, and even if you do protest, it changes nothing. He does not have a say in the matter, he does not have a choice, and nor do you as the playable character. It may sound like a nitpick, but that is just a detail not present in the previous title, where you have full control over who will accompany you on your journey, and you also do not have that looming figure of your adoptive father somewhat directing your steps, laying down the trail of breadcrumbs for you to pick and follow. And overall, the freedom just feels so much more prominent in that first game, and not just in terms of the gameplay mechanics, open world and such, or even different approaches to quests and their solutions, but also story wise, if it truly is your character making the decisions controlled by you, the player, and if your choices have an actual impact on other characters within that story, such as Lady Aribeth, probably the most important non-player character in that game. And for me, for my enjoyment of the story and my rather clear favoritism, the opening sequence, just knowing that my character was not forced to attend the academy by some series of unfortunate accidents, and that even after the attack on the academy, he still has agency, he still makes the choices. Now, I mean, obviously, within the story, the game would not proceed if I, as the player, were to choose to simply refuse to interact with the other 4 districts of Neverwinter and ultimately recover the reagents needed for the cure for that plague, and most likely having this full control that the character needs to possess of himself right at the beginning is the most important thing for me to be able to genuinely enjoy a game, because afterwards, even if that character does get somehow forced into some decisions, some directions, if it's not that way right from the very beginning, I will more likely overlook it or even feel like that it fits into the story than if it's that way right from the get-go. Glad that I did manage to sneak in another entire segment just about Neverwinter Nights. And now for Epidaros. The club members are still trapped in that flooded cave, starvation and scurvy incoming, and so it might be time to take some risks. And by that I mean Yarka's idea to dive into the water, blocking off the entrance, try to locate it, swim through it, and then hopefully get help for the rest of the boys. Him being the best swimmer out of all of them makes him the ideal person to attempt this. They tie a rope around his wrist so that he can use it as an emergency signal for them to drag him back in case he's unable to continue diving. Mirek agrees, adds to it that in case that he is successful, they will be able to give him his clothes that he will need to take off for this challenging task through the opening on top of that chimney that they had discovered during their earlier investigation of the cave, the one that Indra climbed for the possibility of escape, only to find but a small opening, not nearly enough for anyone to squeeze through, but it would be enough to hand Yarka his clothes and shoes if he is successful. All the other boys are gathered around the shore, impatiently waiting for Yarka to either re-emerge or succeed. Redcap raising the possibility of him getting stuck somewhere, unable to even signal them back. Indra just admits that he would never be able to even attempt this for how cold the water is and how dirty as well because of the flash flood, and just displays his admiration for the older boy. But then Yarka reappears, meaning that he did fail this time. He explains that it was due to him getting lost and then running out of oxygen, but he is more than ready to jump back in. Mirek just tries to approximate the location of the exit based on this initial attempt, guiding Yarka a bit more to the right, and Indra optimistically rushes to the chimney so that he can hand over the clothes in case of success, and this time it does work. The calm, stale water around the entrance changes into a swift current, still fierce due to the heavy rain, but for a skilled swimmer such as Yarka, it is not impossible to grab onto some rocks and finally drag himself out of the river. He is there, safely outside in the sun, but that is only the first half of his task. He runs around, reaches the opening, where he meets with Indra excitedly handing him his clothes, and when fully suited up, it's time to rush towards the closest settlement, but he gets lucky and on the road meets an army vehicle, a large truck that he manages to stop with his desperate pleas. He then explains to them their plight, further clarifying that not all boys have the ability to dive and cross the river the way he did, and that the opening on top of that chimney is simply too small for a human to squeeze through. Well, luck number two, it turns out that these are sappers. The Czech language now also uses that word, but here an older and truly Czech word for it is used, zákopník. Another variant is ženista, but they basically all mean the same. Army pioneers or engineers or sappers, which means they have the tools needed to do all kinds of digging. and excavation, and in this case, they are ready and keen on helping the boys in any way they can. And so Yarka leads them to the opening, pickaxes and shovels lock and loaded. After a few hits, they realize that the rock is quite eroded or weather-worn. Not sure which is the best word to use in this case, or even weathered, but anyway, that makes the job much easier, and soon we see Mirek emerging from within the depths, extremely grateful, war cry for the army ready, one that the soldiers are more than happy to return, commending the boys for their bravery and for the fact that instead of breaking into tears, they thought hard and sought out a solution instead of doing something unproductive. And the last panel is all five of them continuing their expedition, with Speedy stating rather adamantly that no one's getting him to stay a night in a cave ever again, and Indra teasingly asking him where did the sudden distaste for all kinds of caverns and hollows come from, that it couldn't have possibly been this little adventure of theirs, and that is the end of this chapter, not the adventure, for there will be an epilogue, maybe even some repercussions for this vacation of theirs, but that will be for the next video. Hopefully I will finally get to the point as well. And with that, this awfully long-winded intro will finally come to an end, and I will be able to move on to the next world building, story writing, storytelling pet peeve of mine. But this is it for this video.